Hello and good evening, everyone. We are back with the cool collaboration hashtag Stay at Home Sessions Volume 2. We are going to have the fourth episode now, which will be about the risk management. It's a pretty important part because everything's important what we had already, but a lot of the project or organizations and companies are abandoning this part because approximately, according to the statistics, it's only 20% of the projects have proper risk management, 40% of the project have at least something, and 60% or 40% have zero, like nothing. They are not even calculating. They are doing maximum that they say that, okay, this risk can happen, and you see, I told you. When it happens, then they just pick up the paper and, I told you it can happen. So now we're going to go through these steps, how to do a proper risk management, how to list all the risks. But first, let's start with the defining or definition, what's the risk. We have several definitions, all of them make sense, and you will approach the topic of risk management from a different angle maybe. So the risk is a single event which can affect quality, scope, time and resources and costs of a project in a negative way. So before that, it was like it's something that can affect all these aspects in a negative or positive way. So it's not like that anymore. They changed the definition. It's just affecting in a negative way. The risk is when it's negative. So all the aspects of the project can be affected. Risk planning is derived from project environment analysis, scope and time planning. So when you are analyzing the environment, the project environment, and all the stakeholders and everybody who is affected by the project, you are calculating or preparing the list of risks by that, and of course the scope and time planning. Risk management describes the processes dealing with identifying, analyzing risk, as well as with respective action planning. So as we said, usually they are just saying that, okay, this can happen, and when it happens, then okay, we said that it can happen. No, it's analyzing what can happen, describing what can happen or what could be done against it, or what can we do to decrease the impact of that risk. And we need to do some actions after that. If you do not impact the risk will sooner or later impact you. Or if something can happen, at one point it will happen. In one of the parallel universes or wherever, if something can happen, there is a chance that it will happen one day. All relevant risks are identified and actions and procedures for adequate risk handling are planned. Level of detail of planning correlates with the type and the complexity of the project. Of course, if it's an easy project and it's not a big budget, not a big time frame or not, time boundaries, you don't need to have a total proper risk management if it doesn't have a big impact, financial or time-wise. You don't need to have it that detailed as the other ones. Planning and decision quality within the project are improved. Decision making. So when I have proper risk management, I can plan everything a little bit better. I can pay attention to more aspects. I can calculate with other risks and other budgets and other resources which will be needed maybe if it will happen. And if it would happen and I couldn't calculate it, the quality of the project would rapidly decrease. Risk situation of the project is transparent and the identified risks are therefore controllable. So it's not just that if I do a proper risk management, all the risks will be eliminated. It's not going to happen. It's almost impossible. But if they're identified, I can track them and I can control it at least a little bit. Okay, so we are going to have the risk management process. How do I start? What should I do? And in what order and what steps? So first one is identifying the risks. As we said, usually the people identify the risks and then do nothing. They will just list up. It's even like that when you are having a suggestion for improving something, you need to come up that, okay, I found this problem, this should be solved, and that's my solution for it. So this is the first step. I found something that needs to be solved or need to be listed at least to pay attention to that it can happen. The objective of this step, so when we are in the step identifying of risks, our objective is to collect as many possible risks as possible risks. It's done by the interdisciplinary team, and we need to describe and categorize. So it's not just that I write down one word and that's it, and if someone else will read it, they won't understand. I need to write it down, the name of the risk, then describe it a little bit, that what do I mean by that, and then put it in category what will be affected by that risk if it would happen. There are several methods how to do it. So it can be brainstorming, that you sit down, think through all the steps, what will happen during your project, all the phases, all the work packages, anything. If the deliverables or the results could be threatened, then you need to imagine the situation, how could it be threatened, and write everything down. You can have some experiences from previous projects or some lessons learned that, okay, we did this project, we did something really similar, because all the projects are unique and new, but we had something which is closely connected or similar, and we had these issues, and how we solved it, or what was the impact, and we need to count again. Or we can invite experts. If it's a field then where we will work with the experts, then it's good to invite them for this part of the planning, the risk management, so they can say that what risk or possible threats they can see in our project. Second one is assess the risks. So now I know approximately what can happen, but somehow I need to evaluate it or measure it, that if it happens, then what? Or what's the possibility that it will happen? So now we are talking about the probability and impact. So probability is that, okay, it can happen, but what are the odds? What are the changes that it will happen? It can happen that I will won the lottery, but the probability is pretty low, but the impact would be high. Or there can be a huge probability that I'm going to go to the capital at 8 in the morning. There is a super huge probability that I will stuck in the traffic somewhere, but if I don't need to be there on time, then the impact is small, like, okay, I will spend there half an hour more, but that's it. So this is what we are calculating, or what we are doing in this step. We can do it in two ways. We can have a qualitative analysis. So the probability and impact as well, we are measuring in the way that we are putting it low, medium, and high. So we have the risk, the name of the risk, or small description, and we will dedicate that, okay, what's the possibility or probability that it will happen? Then I will put what the impact if it happens. So I'll put, for example, it's I don't know, we won't have electricity in the accommodation during project. Okay, the probability is low because they have all the solutions or power generators and backup plans. So the probability is low, and the impact, okay, that could be like medium, let's say, because the comfort will be much lower. We wouldn't have maybe heating or electricity. We couldn't charge nothing. So, but it would be solved kind of soon. So yeah, let's say not low, but it would be a medium impact. If we are doing a quantitative analysis, then we are doing the same, but we are measuring the probability in percentage, that how many percent is it possible that it's going to happen, and the impact is measured not like high impact, low impact, but I can define it a little bit in depth. So how much time will it take for me to fix it or to deal with that, or how many days or weeks? Whatever, depends on the size of the project. If it's a short-term project, then I can count it on hours, many days maybe. If it's a 5 years project, then of course I will count it in weeks maybe. And of course the euros, that everything which is a risk or which threatens me or which makes me to do some extra effort to solve it costs money. All the mistakes, all the unplanned events costs money. Okay, this is the risk matrix. So when you analyze, you assess the risks. So you have listed it, and you have the assesses. So you have the low, medium, high. We made it like this. It's much easier when you do the risk matrix. It's a basic stuff for easier projects maybe. Then you will list some of the risks and put it in a square. Where does it belong? So let's say, let me check. We have the canceling the accommodation, that something will happen to the accommodation, a natural disaster or something, that the accommodation won't be available for youth exchange. The probability is low because we are working with accommodations, we are having a long-term cooperation, let's say, and we are arranging the 10th youth exchange and never happened any such a problem, and it's not in a risky area where can be floods or something, so the probability is low. But the impact would be high, so I'm gonna put it in this square that, okay, the canceling the accommodation is a low probability but high impact. But if I have a whole group, let's say, who are traveling by plane, miss the plane or skip it or something happen during the transport, okay, the probability is, depends on the preparation, of course, but the probability is, let's say, medium. Anything can happen. There are more aspects. There is bus who need to take them to the airport. Everybody need to be at the bus. If we need to wait for someone or the bus is waiting, we are increasing the probability that it will happen. They are increasing the chance that they will miss the flight. So I would say it's somewhere maybe low and medium, but if you do everything as you should, if you plan everything as it should be and plan with the buffer, so you have more time and not just right on time planned everything, but you have a little bit of time buffer, then shouldn't happen, but let's put it in medium, but the impact is high. If the whole group is skipping or missing the plane, then the impact is kind of high and it's in a yellow field. By these colors, what I want to visualize is that you assess the risk or put it in this risk matrix, and this one in the top right corner is with the high impact and high probability that there is a huge chance that it will happen, and it would have a huge impact on my project. This is called a showstopper, that this would cancel everything almost, that it will be a huge problem. So if there I have something, this is the one I need to deal with immediately, or reconsider that if I'm going to do the project or not, if there is a huge risk. Then we have this high impact, medium probability, or medium impact but high probability. This is the priority number 2, and then the rest is the priority number 3. So it's okay if there is a high impact but a really low probability it will happen, then I don't need to deal with this one that immediately, but these 3 I need to solve immediately before even the project start maybe. For example, there is a good example. Nobody would ever guess that it can happen that we will have this coronavirus situation with COVID, and we would put it in before, 1 year ago. Who would guess during December 1 year ago that we will have some kind of COVID? It was mentioned somewhere in China. Okay, there were 200-300 people maybe infected. Okay, but it was a not even low probability, but super low probability it will happen. But the impact is unexpectedly high. And now in this situation, we have the restrictions, we have everything. Even if it would be allowed to do the projects, the restrictions and everything in multiple different countries when they are participating in projects, and multiple different restrictions, it's almost impossible, and they are changing the restrictions every day or every second week. So there would be a huge possibility or the huge probability that they will change something and we could have problems, or all of the participants could have problems, and the impact would be huge. Of course, but we did the risk analysis properly and all the partner organizations and everyone, and we decided, okay, we are not doing nothing because the safety is the first. So the youth exchanges will continue immediately after everything will be completely safe and completely okay, and the probability of something happening will be low. Nobody is threatened and everybody will be healthy and safe. Okay. And the rest, which is low probability, low impact, and everything what's blue is just a low priority that I can solve it if it doesn't need too much extra effort, or I don't have nothing in this field, then I will continue to solve this. But I'm definitely not starting with something which had a low probability, low impact before I will do something which is super important. Okay, and now we are getting to the action. This is the third step of the project risk management process. And the whole risk management actually starts here, because if I know about something, I identified something, I will say that, okay, this is important, but I'm not doing nothing. Then it's not the risk management, I'm just aware, but that's it. And so this is the step where actually the risk management starts. Not all the methods, all the actions can be applied to all the risk which we are listing or we are preparing, identifying. But we can choose what can be solved which way, or something can be solved in multiple ways. So the first action, what we can do is complete elimination. It means that I try to eliminate the risk, so the probability, it doesn't exist anymore, that it's impossible that something will happen. What do you think? Can we eliminate all the risk at once, that none of the risk will happen? Of course we can. Canceling the whole project and canceling the whole activity and nothing will happen. That's the solution. But no. But other stuff can happen, other things we can influence. Like, for example, if you have an accommodation somewhere in the mountains and there is a lake, but it's around winter, so there is a chance that someone would go to swim to the lake and could get hurt, could get drowned, could get sick, whatever. So if we say that nobody is allowed to go to the lake, that's it, that's the rule, nobody is going there and nobody would go to the lake, then we 100% eliminated the risk that it cannot happen, that something will get drowned in the lake when they are not going to the lake. When there is a restriction that we are not going, then we are not going, and that's it, it's eliminated. If someone is thinking about having a beer and calculating that, okay, I can drive maybe in 1 hour and maybe it will be okay, you can eliminate the risk by not drinking nothing at all, and that's it, and the risk doesn't exist anymore. Then there is the mitigation. Mitigation is that I'm lowering the probability. It won't be zero, the probability will not be zero, but it will be lower. So if we are, let's say, playing some games or whatever, some activities during the youth exchange, then okay, I will make sure that they have the right equipment, the right safety measures and right equipment to do the activity, and then I'm lowering the possibility that something will happen. That's in a safe place, it's a safe playground or something, and it's not in the edge of the cliff, so I lower the probability that something will get hurt. Then we have the transfer. It means that I'm transferring the risk to the third party. So I'm not, it still can happen, but I'm not taking care of the risk anymore. It's a duty of someone else that they will take care of the risk. And I'm usually paying for that service. The risk can still happen, but I'm not the one doing something with it. So let's say the participants need to get to the youth exchange. And usually when it's not more than 5,000 kilometers or 2,000 kilometers, they are going by bus. So I don't have my own buses, so I'm not going to take them by bus. And if something happens to the bus, that it will get broken, I have a huge problem. But if I hire a bus company, which will transport the participants or transfer the people to my project, then it's not my problem anymore that I need to do something with the bus, some technical checks, or if the bus will get broken, then it will be a problem that I need to get a new bus and something. The company have its own buses, they have insurance, they have everything. If something will get broken or they don't have a driver or something, they will deal with the situation and not me. So I transfer the risk that, okay, the risk can happen, but here you are, deal with that, it's not my problem anymore. Then there is the acceptance. That I tried all the possibilities, I tried to identify all the actions, and like, this is, I can just accept what will happen. But there are two ways of acceptance. One of them is accepting it passively, which means that I'm aware that it can happen. I, let's say, did something to, like, okay, I hope it's not going to happen, but if it will happen, I will deal with it. For example, again, it could be the COVID situation, again, that okay, it's somewhere in the complete bottom of the list that what can happen, that there will be a huge whole earth pandemic with all the people and possible risk, but be honest, who would guess 1 year ago that it will be like that? Nobody would guess, so it's completely in the top bottom of the list. So I can say that, okay, if it would happen, I will deal with it. I'm not gonna do nothing for that, but If it will happen, I will deal with that. I will figure out what to do. And this is the actual situation with everybody, because nobody would guess that it can happen. And then I can accept it actively. That means that I have a, let's say, plan B, that I'm not doing nothing before the risk would happen, but I exactly know what to do when something will happen. That I'm aware, I accepted that there is a chance that it will happen, and it's not like I will figure it out like passively, but I'm prepared that if risk will happen, I'm going to do this. Even this could be a insurance, that I have an insurance that people in the project, something will get broken in the accommodation, a window or something, and I have an insurance that, okay, if something would get broken, then the insurance company will pay for me. So I'm not decreasing the probability. I just have I'm just transferring it to someone, or not transferring, but someone else will pay for it. So someone else is dealing with the money impact of the risk. The insurance is actually not a transfer, as it's here. Could be, but it's not a transfer, because by transfer, I'm transferring it to someone who's taking care of the probability as well. But the insurance company is just solving the impact. So if something will happen, they will pay for it, but they are not doing nothing for that it won't happen. If there is a bus company who is taking my participants, they are doing the checkups, they are arranging everything, they are calculating that they will be on time, and they are decreasing even the probability that it will happen. Insurance company, they are just aware that they need to pay when something will happen. Okay. Now we have the last point, which is the implementation and controlling. And it's pretty important, because still I did some actions. I'm kind of okay. I'm in a much better way than most of the organizations or companies or most of the projects, that I'm not just identified and assessed, but I actually did something to do it, some prevention, let's say. But it's not like a one-time job, but I need to do some controlling after that. So implement all the possible solutions, or which I decide to implement, or have meaning, or have a huge impact. That means that when I will show you a sample Excel table, how should it look like approximately. So I will decide what do I want to implement, what insurances I want to do, what equipment I need to buy to make it safe, and what measures or steps I need to do to avoid possibilities that it will happen. So I need to implement all the solutions which I came up with. And this is the table I mentioned. You need to keep this table somewhere. It's not like I listed it, that's it, throw it in the trash. No. I need to keep it. And I have all the risks and possible methods how to solve it, because it can happen that I haven't done nothing, but it's on the list. And I need to have a method that if it would happen, I didn't count on it, but it happened, then I need to know what to do, so I can go back to the list and know what to do. As we said, companies are listing the risks, and they say, I told you that it will happen, it can happen, but if you have the solution for that or method, how to act when it happens, some action for it, some plan B, then you exactly know what to do, and you don't need to come up with the idea at that time, because you are losing time, and time is money. Monthly check and update. Again, depending on the size of the project. If it's a huge project, then you can check monthly. If it's not a big project, but a short one or a small one, you can check even more often and update the table, because it can happen. Yep. It can happen that new risks or something new which I haven't think about yet, something occurs, then I need to add it to the table and do the assess that if it's a high impact or high probability or not, and re-evaluate the impact and probability, because in the beginning of a project, let's say in somewhere in 2018, I said that, okay, that this thing, that it will happen, like it's no chance that it will happen, but 2 years later, if I re-evaluate it, I will see that, okay, we postponed a little bit the activity. Let's say it's not going to be in May, but it will be in November. So the roads are frozen. It's a little bit more dangerous. The weather is much worse. Everything's cold. There are possibility that something will happen. There are frozen lakes or whatever, they can slip. So the chances of the injury, let's say, will be higher than I originally thought about. So I need to re-evaluate everything when I'm checking this risk management plan. I need to include the cost in the project budget. I need to be aware that if something will happen, or if I'm doing some measures, how much does it cost? Because nothing's for free. No, some stuff are for free, but not all the stuff. If I need to have an insurance, I need to buy an equipment, I need to arrange something, it will cost me either money or time. And time is money as well. So I need to include these costs, the mandates, and increase the budget as well, or have a separate budget for this risk management, that if something will happen, I have something to touch. Because if you run out of all the money and you have risk management and some of the risk which is listed, and you have the action and you know the method how to solve it, but you run out of money, then you have a problem. So you need to count with that even in the project description, that this is cost for the risk management, that if something will happen, we need to have money and resources for that, even human resources. We need to have someone who will do it. If you have one facilitator during the project and he will get sick, you won't lose money, but you lose a human resource, which is a huge problem. So you need to have a backup plan. You need to have someone who can do it or help you out. Yeah, calculate with money and time reserves. So even if there is a probability that something will happen or something will take a little bit longer as it should, due to some of the risks, you need to calculate with that. So you are not, as we said, when it comes to the transport to the airport or transport to the airport, if you are late for the accommodation, it's not a problem, but to the airport. The bus, for example, need to take you to the airport to catch the flight to get to the accommodation or get to the country you want to go. And the bus will calculate it exactly on time, that if everything goes smoothly, you will get there. But what if some risk will happen, that you postpone a little bit the project, it won't be on May, but will be on November, let's say. They are traveling not in the morning, but in the afternoon when there is bigger traffic. There can be some accidents on the road or whatever, and it will take slightly longer than it should. You won't have time for the check-in, and you can miss the flight. And when you miss the flight, you have a big problem. So you need to calculate with this when you do the risk management to re-evaluate again even the schedule of the project. That, okay, I need to count with the risk or possibilities that something will happen even in these steps. Cool. This is the last point. I made a minor small example of the table, how you can list up all the things. Of course, it's a PowerPoint presentation. The normal list would be longer a little bit or contain more information, but this is for you just to understand that this is how approximately it should look like. So you give it a number of the risk, the name, let's say name is accommodation or accommodation problems. And then you have the description, due to technical issues or any disaster, it will be unsuitable. So it's not like the accommodation, because you could say that, okay, accommodation will cancel the booking, but it's not about that. It's about the technical issues, that they won't have water, something will get broken, there will be an earthquake and it will get thrown to the ground or something. It can happen. So I need to do something with that. The probability is, okay, 5%. I think it's still high, but okay, can be 5%. So when I'm counting on the time to get the accommodation or prepare or something, I'm counting 5% more time and 5% more budget. And the impact would be, let's say, 10,000 euro, because what can happen? We have the high priority because the accommodation is pretty important for arranging a project or youth exchange or something, or a training course. You can have a preventive action to prepare list with other accommodations. So you can choose a different one within the country or some closer accommodation. But if this risk happens, it can have an impact of 10,000 euro, let's say, because you will go for other accommodation when you don't have the negotiated prices, let's say. You are not cooperating or working together for a long time, so they won't give you a discount. The services will not be that good, so the impact will be not just on the budget, but even on the quality and the cost. Okay, the cost of the preventive action is €0 because you are not physically giving money, but you are giving your time to prepare it. So it will cost you some hours to make a list or talk to the accommodation, ask for some prices, and then you will have a backup plan. If something will happen with the accommodation, then you know what to do. So the cost, technically it's €0, but practically someone need to do the research, someone will need to do the comparison of the accommodations. Again, injuries and sickness. Participants can get injured during some activities or get sick. Again, it's a usual stuff. They are 10 days together, a lot of people. It can happen that they will get sick. If it's during the winter period or before winter, they can get cold, they can get something. We can do some measures. Okay, the priority is high because the safety is the most important. The probability, let's say, is 25%. I'm not talking about injuries and broken bones and stuff. It can happen, but mostly about getting cold or something, or doesn't feel good, or food poisoning can happen. It's unusual. Food maybe not like they have at home, and they won't be maybe okay with that. What can we do? One team member will have the first aid course, and we'll have a car which he can use in case of emergency or something will happen. He can go to the nearest village or city, get some medicines, or if something will happen, he can take the participants to the doctor. And of course, we need to invent some preventive rules for safety. That means that don't go to the lake because you can get drowned, and just don't do that, and we are eliminating the risks. Or if you are going somewhere out, don't go alone. Go at least two of you or someone, because if something happens to you, the second can help, or go for call someone for help. Have your phones charged, whatever, that come up with any ideas how to prevent these injuries and sickness. And the cost is, because this basic medication, let's say I counted, it can be around 50 euros. So buy some first aid kit, buy some basic medicine for the stomach problems and for fever and thermometer and whatever, and with 50 euro, you did a kind of big job with this, because you can avoid or deal with the basic sicknesses. And if something will happen, then you know what to do, and it doesn't cost you money. Maybe man days, 5 man days would be in the impact that someone will need to deal with this. The transport to the hospital and communicate with the locals and stuff. Damages and accommodation. Again, and this one, you put it in order. This was the highest priority, because even if this is a small probability, it will happen, but it have a huge impact, and impact wouldn't be just 10,000 euro because you need to pay more for the accommodation, but everything could be cancelled or postponed, and that's a bigger impact again. So if you are dealing with this one at the first site, then damages on accommodation, that participants or the organization in whatever accidentally damage parts of the accommodation or the equipment. I maybe don't even remember a project where at least a chair didn't get broken. It's stuff which happens. If there is 50, 60 people in one place, there is a huge probability it will happen. But I put 40%, but yeah, it can, and nobody's surprised. You accept it, you did some measures, it can happen. You can inform the participants about their responsibility about the material or caused problems, and suggest or arrange insurance for them. So if you do something or break something, the insurance company again will pay for you. And okay, the cost 200 euro is maybe for the whole group for the 8-10 days of mobility or 12 days mobility, but usually it's around, depending on the country and the company, but should be around maybe 20 euro for one person for the whole year. So it's not expensive, but can save a lot. If you break a TV which costs 1,000 euro, it could be a problem. And the bad internet connection, it's an easy example. The internet connection in the accommodation will be low quality and low speed and low range. Usually, personally, I prefer to have some restrictions, but not suggesting to use the internet to the people that much, because they are there to communicate with each other and learn something new and improve their skills. So it's good to not use the internet, but for the organization team, definitely there is a need for the internet, or if the topic requires it for the project, they will need the internet connection, and they need to do something, they need to communicate with their parents and stuff. So can be solved. The probability is, okay, let's say 10%, that it can happen but shouldn't. If the accommodation is somewhere in the mountains, that the internet speed will not be like at home, but still. Impact is 5 man days that I counted there that you, for example, the organization team will need to go somewhere to the village to a coffee to have a free Wi-Fi, and then to solve any other issues there or communicate there. So it can take time. The priority is low because, okay, it can happen, but doesn't have a big probability, let's say, and the impact is not that big as well. So you can check the connection with the accommodation before the mobility. 0. Interesting. So you can check the connection in the accommodation. You have some experiences with them, you know them, so they can assure you that the internet quality is okay, or they can tell you the common places in the common, like conference rooms and stuff, that okay, the internet connection in this place is kind of okay, so you can use there. If you want to communicate, to chat, to call or something, or do a research, sit down, you can work there, it's okay. You can prepare Wi-Fi extenders. I have them as well. So you can bring the Wi-Fi signal to the places where originally it haven't been. It's not the expensive stuff. And in case of the need, it's not that unusual to have a mobile data connection, and it's even get stronger and stronger and better on more places. So even if you won't have the connection in the accommodation, you will go for a walk, climb a little bit of a mountain, and then you will reach a connection or some outer spaces, not within the walls, within the accommodation. So to have these Wi-Fi extenders and using of mobile data or ordering a new SIM card shouldn't be more than €100. And now you see that this is just, let's say 4, but you can have more. With some of them you decide to deal, with some of them you don't even decide to deal because there is no impact and low probability, then you are not dealing with that. But you have the list of methods how you can prevent from that or how you can avoid it or what to do when it happens. Then okay, you will deal with that when it happens, like actively accepting the risk. Otherwise you will list, and of course always dealing with the high priority or the second priorities or medium priorities according to the SS management of the risks. Okay, and this is the table you are checking all the time on monthly basis or weekly basis. This you are deciding. This is the impact. You can divide it in 2 columns: the budget impact and the time impact. You can decide it. Okay, because some of the stuff can be described better in man days. Some of them can be described in euro because you exactly know how much will it cost if it will happen. So the more information you have, the more proper risk management you do, the more control you have about the project, and you are decreasing all the possible risks. And by this, you are increasing the quality of the project, that you are preventing from some or doing prevention that something will not happen, some risk won't occur. So people will be more happy when there is no problems. When you have the electricity, you have a good accommodation with good heating, nobody's injured. If someone is injured, it's solved immediately, nobody is sick. You are paying attention, taking care, no damages happen. If something happened, it solves smoothly and nobody is stressed out because something happened and don't know what to do. Because even that confidence, what you have, because you have the risk management, can help you to implement much more successful projects. So let me check if we have any questions, so I can answer them. So there is 256 people watching. Okay, so the explanation was perfect. I hope you have a little bit better insight to the risk management and how to approach the problems and how to deal with the problems or how to prepare for that it will happen. Because yeah, we need to think positively, sure, but we need to be prepared for the negative stuff and we need to know what to do. So, we jump to the questions. Okay, Mr. Pereira, I need a little bit of help. I have to find the questions. And it will be perfect. Okay, I see. Improving multimedia skills. Hello, Viktor. Hello, Anna. What's the most common risk to happen in the project? From my experience, some sickness usually happens. It's normal, but if you have the basic medication, it's nothing difficult, not a disaster. So some stomach problems with the food, you are not used to that food, or you are not used to the weather, or you are not well prepared for the weather, or you did expected something else, then you can get a little bit of cold, a little bit of stomachache, but everything can be solved with a little bit of rest and a basic medication. Just reminding all the people or future participants who are looking or paying attention to communicate with the organization team. They will help you, they are there for you. So if you have any kind of problems, don't sit in the room and try to deal with that by yourself. Everybody's there to help. So don't be afraid, just tell that something's not okay and the solution will be found. Of course, internet connection, when you have the accommodation somewhere in the forest where the nature is perfect, the landscape is perfect, then you need to deal with that maybe the internet won't be that good. But still, by the 5th day, people usually forget that there is internet. COVID-19 is very hard to predict risk. Yes. Nobody could predict, because in the last few hundred years, nothing similar happened. So it's really difficult to predict it, but it's the acceptance that, okay, if it will happen, I will deal with that, I will know what to do. In the countries, as Rui wrote, they are somehow similar. So if you check the whole Europe, you will see the restrictions, what do they have, what you had before, you can see the numbers, you can predict or guess what restrictions will be in the upcoming few weeks or few months. And based on that, you can decide, or you can come up with some plan B or some actions that if they would invent this restriction, then you know how to react. If it's a restriction that you cannot do nothing with that, then easy, you are not doing the project. You need to postpone it because there is no chance. But the national agencies are really supportive in this and really helping to deal with this whole situation. Internet connection is high priority. Yeah, sure. If you need to play music during the night when you are interacting with other people from other countries, then yeah, it's high priority. But again, depending on the list, you can decide, if that's the biggest issue, it can happen that you won't have internet connection. Maybe you need to think about again the risks, but if that's the one, you are going to deal with that. If you have 10 more important stuff, then you are doing that one. How many times have it happened that something happened which you were really not prepared? Ooh, okay. I'm afraid to say that I've seen everything, because if I say this, something will happen which I've never seen before. But yeah, usually it's the damage in the accommodation, that the 5 centimeters thick wooden stair got broken, and until today I cannot imagine how it happened. We were prepared for the damages. It was not a big deal. No problem that we managed to solve it without any other issues, but it surprised me. I was not prepared. But again, yeah, I wouldn't say that there's something happened which I was not prepared. I'm usually prepared. You can get a little bit surprised that, okay, this happened. It never happened before, but you definitely know what to do. So if someone got a broken leg, okay, it was like, okay, I haven't seen that before, but let's go. And it was solved in 25 minutes. She was already in the hospital. So this is the proper risk management. And if you have a big responsibility for not just for the project, but for the people there, then you are thinking about these risks a lot of times, that it shouldn't happen. And what I was not prepared, what the HDMI cable for the projector, let's say, or even the internet I was prepared. So don't know really if you have any idea which I was not prepared for, you can say, but I don't remember that something happened which had a huge impact and I was not prepared for. Or I'm not aware of the situation that some of my friends or people I know that they were not prepared when something like this happened. And there are multiple people, as we said in the beginning, the whole team is doing this risk analysis, risk management, because the more heads, the more things you will come up with, and the better you can get prepared, or different people have different approaches and points of view. So the more people you ask about possible project, they will say maybe something what you didn't think about. So you can get prepared for that, or someone will have an easier solution. For example, with the internet connection, I had zero clue how does the Wi-Fi extender works, but in the team there was someone who is better in IT and this stuff. So they said that, okay, the Wi-Fi is not good, but if you get this device, you can solve the problem. It's super easy. And then I didn't need to use my mobile data, which I had 10 gigabytes, let's say, for a month, but Wi-Fi extender, and it was working and made my life much more easier. So this is one of the reasons why multiple people are working on that. They can list up much more things and they can solve much more things, or much easier than you would solve it. They have different amount of information, so it can help a lot. Okay, I will wait 2 more minutes, let's say, if there's any other question will pop up. yeah, I would say that everybody's healthy and everybody's safe and the practical arrangement is done, everybody get there and everybody goes back, then there's no problem which cannot be solved. Once happened that it was in a mountain somewhere, and there was a problem with the water, that they didn't have, like, zero water, not in the shower, not in the sink, nothing, nowhere. So there was no water in the accommodation. It was immediately in the beginning, during the first day, the arrival day, when everybody was traveling for the half day. They wanted to take a shower, they were thirsty, and there was no water in the accommodation. But again, it was solved. It was not my accommodation, it was a rented accommodation, so they were responsible to decrease the probability and deal with the problems. So what happened, they went down to the village, brought like 100 liters of water with big bottles to everyone, and said that, okay, the shower will be not possible, but you have water, you have drinking water, you can use that. If you need more, just ask or tell. And they went to buy some new water pumps and whatever to do the technical stuff, and by the next morning it was already done. So it surprised me. I was not prepared for that there is an accommodation which is working for like 20, 30, 50 years, and something like this can happen. But again, they did their own risk management, and they exactly knew what to do when this will happen, and they didn't start to Google that, what to do when I have no water. No, they already know what to do, just did all the measures. It was a not that comfortable day, but it was solved really fast. So that one I was not prepared. Okay, thank you for the questions. And thank you for watching. The presentation will be running for like 1 or 2 more minutes. If something popped to your mind, just ask or mention. Thank you for your attention, for your questions. And until the next question or until the next time, see you and take care and analyze your risks. Bye.